really grateful for this meal I'm about to receive. And thank you for the chicken. Thank you to the farmers. Thank you to the plate designers. Thank you to the truck drivers. Thank you to the store clerks. Thank you to the store owners. I mean, it's so much easier to invest in real estate. People took a chance to invest in a restaurant, so I'm grateful to them. I wonder if anyone else has noticed, but I feel like on average, people's legs are getting thinner now. Like, I was just at the gym and I noticed the average young fella, he just has really skinny legs. Now, I'm not sure if that's a cultural trend, if I'm just imagining things, but I feel like people's muscles have atrophied. Gen Zs, like, I don't think their parents encourage them to do sports or something in the water or the food, but people's legs have atrophied now, like in general. They don't look petite, they look like malnourished. And like when I was growing up, I was considered like small, and now I feel like compared to the average male, I am actually quite of a elite physical prowess, even though I'm really average in terms of effort. Um, Something has happened to the male physique where they're really atrophied, particularly in the legs. Like I need to work on my legs a lot more. But I think it could also be people really have a lot of energy drinks and they're really addicted towards um, self-love. Not that it's love, but it's depleting their testosterone and it's just making them maldeveloped. What are your thoughts? I mean, like Coca-Cola with ice. Well, first of all, you should know that having any kind of icy drinks is just really bad for your stomach. Um, my sister, she did this TV video show when she was a teenager in Korea, and they did scans of her stomach, and she was like 16, and they already found out that she had damage to her stomach from drinking soft drink Diet Coke with ice. So they told her to stop taking cold soft drinks. It's actually chicken thighs with Moroccan seasoning on top of buckwheat, and it's just a little salad. And it comes to Coca-Cola, I'd probably switch to like kombucha or like some kind of ginger tea or like sparkling mineral water with lots of lemon, and you could get like some ginger-based cordial, like kind of a high-end one. Or if you're referring to like as in hard drugs, coke and ice, I would think about why you're doing that in the first place. So perhaps you have like low self-esteem or something. Try and build your self-esteem in other areas. And it's very important to move away from the friends or acquaintances who really encourage that kind of degenerate behavior. Yeah, buckwheat is a Ukrainian and Russian grain. It's the highest amount of protein in any grain, and it's very soft and moist. Buckwheat is. It's why the Russians are so strong and big. Like, have you seen Putin's guards? Like their tank, because buckwheat, you put butter on there, and you can have it with like chicken schnitzel, steaks, fish. It's it's halfway in between rice and like cracked wheat. And it's fantastic because you can just have so much of it at once, and it's really flavoursome and it's kind of mutty and mild, Yeah, kind of similar to barley, but yeah, kind of like a couscousy consistency as well. And I'm surprised it hasn't caught on here that much in the Western world because it's massive in Eastern Europe, and Eastern Europe they know how to party. I get it from this Eastern European deli. My wife's dad shops there. He gets the discount because he's Russian. Oh no, not because of that he's Russian, but he's like a senior citizen, and I gave us. Actually, I'm not enrolled to vote actually because I there isn't any party that sticks out to me, and if I'm gonna put my name on something, I have to really believe in it. Like I'm the kind of person who's I really have to believe in something if I'm gonna attach my name onto it. So I haven't voted since I was like 18, and back then I was just a nitwit and didn't even understand the pros and cons of a democratic system. And quite frankly, I'm actually against um, the democratic system because I don't think most people deserve to vote because most people are clueless and they are hoodwinked and they are a slave to their animalistic impulses and they easily fall for propaganda. Therefore, it doesn't make any sense. Hello, Thanos. Well, we're talking about food, and then someone asked me, "Who am I voting for Peter Dutton in 2025?" But look, this is a bit hard to understand, but I personally I'm attracted to aura and energy, and I don't feel like Dutton has any charisma. And aesthetically, I don't trust someone who's really ugly. And also, I know he's a massive fan of the Zionist state, and I personally am not. I know he's very stoic. I know he's not a massive fan of the radical left theories of victim consciousness and focusing on the LGBT and the global warming and the Black Lives Matter, etc. But that's old school. Like, I think people are pretty past that, you know? Like, the average Australian, they don't give two hoots about any of those issues. They, especially when, like, people haven't got enough money for appropriate food and they haven't gone on a holiday in years, they don't really want to be overwhelmed about the rights of sexual orientations and people from different colors and genetics because it's like, dude, why are we even talking about that? There's bigger fish to fry. And some can argue that when you give people a handicap, you're actually causing more tension and animosity, and you're actually taking away their ability to build resilience. Thanks. Yeah, I actually just really just threw it together. When I was young, I was considering being a chef because I had a lot of training. I used to support my little brothers and sisters when my parents were working several jobs in South Korea, and I used to work in kitchens and bars and restaurants for many years. And even if you're just a kitchen hand or a bartender, you still spend a lot of time in kitchens and you get an appreciation for chefs and what they do. I mean, I even worked at this cafe in Perth for a long time, Dome Cafe in Halls Head in Mandurah, and I was working as a dishwasher as 18 years old, and I spent and the kitchen hand slash before I started as a waiter. Yeah, I know, pretty prestigious, but yeah, I got along with the chefs well, and I learned a lot about discipline, and just I like the fever of it, like when it's really busy, the pump, when they're just like, yes chef, no chef, and they're running around like a headless chook. I love that. I love that being under the pump. It's a good feeling. There's like aspects of military style energy in a fast kitchen. And as a young man, that's what we really want. We really want like military style discipline, because obviously in the Western world, there's so many things that are trying to poison you that you really need to just be like whipped in line, because you're more like a child at 18 than a man, but you have the body of a man, and so it's really hard to not fall for impulsive pleasures like chasing women and wine and song, particularly because in Australia, in lower middle class socioeconomic background like my own, um, parents are not really that involved in your life. They kind of the state is a lot of the raising, like from kindergarten, daycare, school, and then entertainment. The majority of your personality is really raised by the government. So you don't have that attachment, and um, there's like a feeling of like independence. Parents want to give their kids independence, but it's not really independence when you're just a boy in a mad world, because um, you're going to be pushed and shoved by for-profit industries that are usually quite degenerate. So it's not really freedom to have no discipline from your parents as a young person. Or maybe it was different because my parents come from like a very left-wing background. Well, my dad was. Like he's an artist, a filmmaker, and long-haired, etc. So he offered me liberty. But to me, liberty is very painful because you're at the mercy of propaganda and the state. And I'm not sure where you guys are from, but I'm from we moved to a working class area, which is Mandurah, Western Australia. Majority of people are working class or quite bogan, and so alcohol is a very big part of people's lives, and violence and promiscuous behaviour from women, and racing cars, burnouts, and so it's you don't really have much ambition. People just want to work in the mines and buy a house and get a tattoo sleeve and some jet skis. When there's so many things you can sow your oats into, like there's so many, you can learn languages, you can do history, like you can do sports, heaps of stuff. The thing that's wrong with the mines is that it leaves all of the jobs open to women and foreigners that actually influence culture. So like human resources, politics, arts, literature, all those jobs are left behind. And so all the warrior men, tough guys, they get into the mines, and then all the jobs of influence that affect culture are neglected. And so young people, like teenagers, they have no role models because all the tough guys are too busy underground, breaking their backs. And so all the educated and influential jobs are neglected, and that's a shame. And also, the mines, it pays so well, and so I believe in living my adulthood as a living man baby. I want to be nursed forever. I'm not sure. Are you calling me a man baby? I don't want to be nursed. I live an adult life. I work for my own money. I have a wife and family, child and dog, and close to my family, brothers, sisters. I have a few friends I've had for years. I'm not really sure what you mean. I'll tell you what though, the mind is fine. It's just when, if you have a talent, like if you're really good at understanding patterns, or like if you're artistic or philosophical, it's a shame to not let that thought baby go out to the universe. How do you go, Rico? This is buckwheat and chicken thighs. Well, that's fantastic, hairy nuts. Um, it's all very well. I worked in construction for years as well. I did roof tiling, sandblasting, spray painting, general labouring for big commercial sites. There's definitely some good and benefits of doing labouring, and obviously Australia is really relying on those men who work in the mines. Without them, we'd be screwed. The job itself is fine. It's just what it does is that it takes away from the jobs that influence society. Yeah, well, you know what? Eating less, that's a good thing. Like, I found that the more I eat, the less I think. It's buckwheat. It's a Soviet grain with French butter, and it's chicken thighs with Moroccan seasoning with Celtic sea salt, and lots of extra virgin olive oil. And then there's just a basic salad my wife made with pickles, beetroot, parsley, avocado, tomato, Italian herbs. Yeah, that's the thing about mines, is that it just takes away, like a lot of men in Australia, they work so many hours, they've got really strong work ethic. Like I've actually heard that Australians do more hours than any other Western country. Like we work a lot of hours. You know, a lot of immigrants, they make fun of Australians and say we don't work enough, but we actually work a lot of hours. And there's a good um, theory behind that. Like I understand people's intentions; they want to work hard, but it can be at a problem if you neglect your family, your spiritual pursuits, and if your whole life revolves around your work. Because I know many men and women who they're workaholics, and their family suffers and their mental health suffers. Yeah, they want more money. Yeah, but a lot of people have a lot of money. They just keep going because they don't know what else to do. Because it's easier to focus on your work than it is to focus on your family or your emotional intelligence or your spiritual health. And if you don't focus on those factors, then you lose your money, and you waste money on divorce. You waste money on bad cars. You know, you crash it when you're drunk. You know, if you don't take care of every single faction of your life, eventually one faction will break down and everything else will crumble. Yeah, now I do have some feminine hormones. I know that, but I can actually be quite masculine as well. I'm just softly spoken right now because I've just had a pretty big workout, so I'm drained. Yeah, and also I've just had a baby 5 months ago, and studies have shown that when you have sleep in the same room as an infant, yeah, well, I'm just telling you how it is. When you have a baby, it actually lowers your testosterone because all the oxytocin. Because I'm always hugging my baby, it actually makes me more gentle. Like before I had my child, I was a little more assertive. Yeah, thank you. She's it's incredible. She's amazing. Um, yeah, it's the best thing. Like, it's incredible. Like, she's just always smiling and laughing, and she's always looking around, and she looks so intelligent. And she's just like, she's so little, but she moves her head around, and when you hug her, she makes you feel really warm. It's fantastic. Uh, no, I don't think my wife would appreciate that, but yeah. But someone said mental health, a lot of mental health issues. Yeah, there really is. It really is, and that goes back to my previous point about the mines. How a lot of Aussie guys they work in like construction jobs, and that's fine. But the problem is, there's not enough men in mental health. There's not enough men in mental health. Like the majority of psychologists are women. Something like 80, 90% of psychologists are women, and social work as well, mental health support. The entire field is oversaturated with women and homosexuals and foreigners, and so it's very hard for the average actual red-blooded Aussie male to want to seek help because they don't resonate or they can't build rapport with the people. The people want to talk to someone who's like themselves. They want someone who's from the streets, like who's been through the school of hard knocks, who's like you know has lived experience and they're approachable and down to earth. Not someone who's like yuppity and high and mighty and just been like private school educated and never had a real job and just been like bailed out of all their problems in life from daddy's money. You know what's funny? Whenever I go to dinner with people, I always forget my food, even though I can be gluttonous. Um, like I'm a bit of a chatterbox, so my wife always tells me, "Eat your food, stop talking, shut the fuck up." So at what point do you guys change that and not go to the mines or travel to Bali? Look, that comes down to me to that's my life's work. I mean, you're not supposed to tell people your dreams, but I'm trying to spread awareness to the poor role models and give the little guy a chance. So instead of worshipping rock stars and sports stars, I want people to worship healers and philosophers and influencers who are talk like myself, who are talking about not worship but listen to, and about people who are being authentic and they're not backed by private investments who have like political and degenerate behaviors that are because there's money in degenerate behavior like a lot of music they talk about drugs and alcohol and objectifying women because that's what keeps society down and it keeps like people in hospital, it keeps them the birth rate low, and then you have to import labor from other countries and people need to be willing to have tough conversations. Like instead of talking about football and women, people need to talk about the fact that a lot of men are workaholics. Like have good intentions, they just want to provide for their family. And I don't know Kaya Hurel. It sounds uh, very colourful that name. But yeah, like you should be able to talk to a man and him not get so defensive, and you say, look, you've got 3 houses, you know, why are you working 80 hours a week when your daughter doesn't even know you, you know? And my mum said that herself. Like my mum said that she um, would rather work than raise her children because at work you've only got one thing to do. When you're with children, you've got emotions, you've got to plan things. Yet sometimes maybe your children can even be brighter than you, and then you have the ego to deal with because they may intellectually outwit you, and then you can't handle that. Maybe they point out the elephant in the room that your feminist ways are not ideal for the health of the child. And so yeah, obviously it's easier to work than it is to raise your children. But to me, Australia was doing really well until the 1960s when the sexual liberation came through. I'm probably going to get banned because whenever I talk about feminism, I get banned, and then I lose this whole life because I like to record it and then put it on YouTube and Twitter and Rumble. I do think even Aussies start moving to other jobs. AU's so big, you still need immigrants. Well, not really, Sandy, because 90% of Australia live in Adelaide and Perth and Canberra and Sydney and Darwin and Melbourne and Gold Coast and Brisbane and Alice Springs. And on the map, it's like less than 2% of the country in terms of geographically where people live. The rest of it is kind of barren and farmland and used for the US military for their experiments. And it's full of ghosts. So we don't need immigrants. What we need Australians to have more kids, and we need to stop partying so much and stop having giant houses and 3 cars. And I don't think I'd be make it as minister. I'd get assassinated the first day I step into office because I've got too much heart. But I'm guilty of this too, right? I have materialistic drawbacks, but I've noticed in Melbourne, where I live, everyone has a brand new car. Like, everyone's got a brand new truck. And it's like, what the fuck? Everyone's complaining about inflation. How come everyone's got a $90,000 Ram? You know? Everyone's got such big cars. And people are working so many hours because they're paying for materialistic things they don't need. Do you think people can afford? I mean, yeah, I know they live on debt, but they've still got the fancy shit. And I get it. I bought a new car because I got sick of being ripped off by dodgy mechanics. Because I had an old car and I loved it. And people kept ripping me off. Like, I had got the same things fixed over and over again, like the thermostat and the radiator, the cold cooling system on my 1998 E39 5 Series BMW. I spent like $5,000 a few times on that cooling system and just kept getting ripped off all the time. And I just work in community mental health, so I'm not rich, and it just really bleeds me dry when these mechanics just roll you over. So that's why I bought a brand new Honda. And I feel a little bit of shame over that because, you know, my entire personality is based on being anti-materialistic, but I still value good stuff. Like, I still value organic foods and, going, like, I've got a gold ring on, and, I'm not like a cheapskate. Because I don't accept any handouts. I work for my money. Like, I work 2 jobs for a long time. I work a full-time job in psychosocial education, and then I work on weekends in mental health support. So I'm not having any handouts, and I didn't get a second-hand car because I don't have much trust in my fellow man, because people are having more kids. Yeah. Well, this is a touchy subject. I always get banned when I talk about this, but there's been an orchestrated agenda from Hollywood and music to encourage radical neo-feminism, whereby women have been pushed to seek satisfaction from career ambitions And on a case-by-case basis, that's fine, as in I get it, like women can be just as good as men at like running companies and analyzing data, etc. But however, someone needs to take something for the team. If people are both spending their 20s in the corporate rat race, that's the primal birthing years. And they call it a race because it's a competition. In other countries, people are, like in Russia and in the Middle East, men are men and women are women, and men take great pride in supporting women, and that's why they're getting culled off. And it sounds sad that women, just like men, have to go, catch the bus to work for an hour and then get yelled at human resources and sit in a cubicle all day and have caffeinated beverages and have a microwave lunch and then have all these passive-aggressive meetings about KPIs, just like men. But the unfortunate side effect is that women are too tired to have kids. And also, like, because of drinking culture and sexual promiscuousness from the birth control bill and from all the music and Hollywood movies encouraging degenerate sexual behavior, is that men don't trust women because a lot of them are hypersexual, and they think that they want to have one-night stands, and so all the hottest girls have had a lot of partners, and then men don't want to go there because no one wants sloppy seconds. And I guess I'm starting to get on with it. Okay, so the point is that unfortunately men have been told to objectify women, and they're chasing them for their bodies, and they're not proud to support them, and so women are too tired to have kids, and so the population is low, and so it's harder to have kids because also it comes down from boomers, the old generation, like people my parents' age, a bit older. They're the worst because they had all this money from World War II. By the way, everything goes back to World War II. It's men and women combined, but I blame men more because I'm a recently Christian person. I haven't done all the formalities, but it's they try not to have any get upset here. But it goes God, and men, women, children, and pets. And so, if men are the boss, they're like the manager of the family. They take the heat. And so, when I see girls on OnlyFans, I say that's the father's fault. And baby boomers, they were really rich because Australia got really rich after World War II because we helped Israel and the United States force the world on the US oil-backed fiat currency system. And so everyone started getting on debt since the 1970s when Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard. And so there's all this free money. And so people started to, the wrong type of person got rich because in the dead society, it's not based on trust, and European society is based on high trust, high morality. And since all this the sexual liberation that happened in the 60s, just before the same time as the gold standard, so you've got debt, you've got free sex, and you've got the promotion of drugs and the promotion of worshipping false idols or rock stars, and all this together has made having a family really shit because the parents, there's no grandparents to help out because they're on cruise ships and drinking white wine at a casino, and the girls are tired from work, and the men have got so many options, right? So it used to be a huge community, like even in the 70s, like my dad was saying that everyone used to have catch-ups all the time. Like there used to always be dinner parties, like 3 or 4 times a week. There'd be get-togethers, playing guitar, maybe sharing around a doobie, glass of red wine. But it wasn't about the drugs, or it was people getting together. All the time there were parties. Even when I was young, like in the 90s, as a kid, there was like barbecues and parties, 2 or 3 every weekend, and something on the weeknight. They'd go out 4 nights a week. And my parents weren't even that popular, and there was always things to go to all the time, and that culture isn't really there anymore, and it's a crying shame. And a lot of it is connected. It comes down mainly from the dead society, from sexual liberation, and the promotion of worshipping footballers and rock stars and Hollywood icons. Yeah, and um, so we about the migrant situation. There's also an ego issue. Like a lot of Australians like me, I'm 34 and I'm working as mental health support right now, and all my colleagues are Kenyan because most people, especially red-blooded like Aussie guys, they don't want to get their hands dirty and help out, people because they're too high and mighty. They want like $80 an hour, whereas I'm getting half that, right? But so that they've got a bit of ego where they're not willing to do like the jobs that don't get the prestige because they've got like this American Hollywood value of like judging someone's self-worth by their career. And it's important to have a good job. Like if you're smart, you should have a good job that challenges you. All right. All my colleagues are Kenyans, and they're very different. Most of them are Christian, most of them are anti-drugs and alcohol, most of them have kids very young. They're really close to their parents. They move out at like 25, and they go out like on hikes and church groups on the weekends. It's very different, and I have to admit it was really good working with them because I was getting a little bit radicalized from extreme far right material online, and I was getting a little bit of hostility towards people of different ethnicities. And so it was really refreshing to work with a lot of Africans because I realized that I get along with them more than a lot of guys of Irish, British background like myself, Scottish as well, because most guys who look like me, they're really under the spell of like chasing girls, pokies, drinking, etc. And they all bring down your spirit. And so I get along more with like a, 30-year-old Kenyan dude if he's like sober and believes in karma. I'm talking about background. I'm not saying I'm born in Ireland, but my grandmother is from there, right? And so over thousands and thousands and thousands of years, that's where my ancestors were from. I'm not talking just in this time span of since 1880. I'm talking 1880 to the dawn of time. That's where my ancestors were from. So it's still fair enough to say that I have Irish heritage. Go back to the part about money. The part about money, well, because of the culture of sexual liberation and debt that came in the 60s and 70s, it has made a globalized society. And when you have a debt-based currency system, there has to be people who lose for people to win. And things aren't beautiful as anymore because people just buy things for the sake of investment. Like the average house, people don't make them as beautiful as they used to be because they're just investments. And so just having the world less pretty, it's just people not as inspired. Like there's no aura, there's no energy, and so people just kind of mope along. And people used to like give good deals on things, they'll sell a house to you cheaper if they liked you. But nowadays people are just, they're so overly medicated and drinking too much and so much porn that they're watching that they just don't give a fuck. There's no heart. I'm saying that most guys like me who are like, middle class Australians, they wouldn't work for less than $80 an hour. And I heard a great story from my colleague the other day. She was saying that her friend was struggling with money. They were only getting like $8,000 a month, and then he was told to ask his boss for a pay decrease, like $2,000 less a month, and he's like, "What the hell?" I said, "No, do it." Okay, so then he's still struggling, so he said, "Okay, decrease your salary even more." and so he reduced it to half the amount. And guess what happened? He got out of debt because the fact that he was on a much lower income, it enabled his lifestyle to change to a point where he didn't waste more money. Like, the great philosopher Biggie Smalls said, more money, more problems. And so the average Australian, they've accustomed their lifestyle to such a high income that it actually gets them in more trouble. Like most guys I know, they'll go out on a Saturday night, they'll just pump 50s into the pokies. They'll pump 50s, 50s, 50s. And then they have $14 pints, and they get a bag of Colombian marching powder for $3.50, right? And then they're driving like a brand new Isuzu truck, right? And they're getting like Mountain Dew from the servo all day, like 2 or 3 of them, like $6 each, cans of Red Bull, you know. So what I'm saying is, the frivolous lifestyle is what's causing people to be in debt. But also, it is hard now, and also like people are not involved in politics in Australia as much. And maybe post-COVID, people have had to get in more. Yeah, but it's more than that. Gambling, alcohol, and white powder. It's more than that. It's also the fact that there's no shame in women in terms of they want to flirt with men and show off their beautiful bodies in a voluptuous, tight clothes and stuff, and women want the bad boys. They want the guys who are doing that. But that's because of Hollywood and stuff has told them that that's cool. And it's also the cultural thing. Like I was in America in Christmas in 2023, and the average person is much more involved in politics, and they drink less. So yeah, alcohol is a big problem, but also it's just because people just don't like, the politicians are so boring. Like it's hard to get involved in it. You know what I mean? Like I follow American politics and I don't live there. People think it's weird, but I can't get involved in Australian politics. I just find them so dry, and nothing feels like it ever gets done. And also, it just feels like Australia kind of just do what America tell them anyway, and like you can just see that they're so soulless, like the politicians, and like they're so not charismatic, and there's no one who really relatable. It's funny that you say that, Jake Paul. Yeah, I don't think he's that bright. I don't think he's that philosophical. I mean, and he's got covered in tattoos and stuff. I don't really like social engineering. Yeah, I'm so glad that you're onto that. We're so far from the power structure. It's not funny. Yeah, like I just don't like. When I think of Peter Dutton, I just see no soul. Like I actually worked at a function, and I met Scott Morrison, and he wouldn't even look me in the eye, and he drank Furphy, which is a shit beer. And there was all these like private school people, boys and girls there in like kind of short skirts, and it tells me that there's a lot of sucking and fucking and wild parties involved in these political events, and like they're just not really people to be proud of. And Australia identifies as one of the most atheist countries in the world, and so what that means is we worship footy players and rock stars, right? And everyone has the capacity to worship. And neurologically, Noam Chomsky, the greatest linguist in the United States, said that there is neuroprogramming in the brain. We want to worship. And our COVID, this live stream, I'm actually enjoying having a chat to people because I'm a chatterbox, and I moved to Victoria recently, and all my family's in Queensland, and so I'm a bit lonely, and so it's nice to have some company. yeah, Christianity. Yeah, I just seen during COVID lockdowns. I was in Melbourne then, and it felt like a lot of darkness. I didn't really feel like a human presence involved with the restrictions, and just how it made me like question if there existence of like a dark energy in this world. And it's funny because a lot of people I know, they love like 666 and covered in tattoos, love cocaine, porn stars, violence, beating people up, but they don't believe in the existence of a creator. And it's like, how can you have that? How can you believe in the devil but not the creator? You know what I mean? Australian culture, well, we're a bit of a mix of British, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, Chinese, Aboriginal, and we kind of anti-class system of the UK. So we're basically about hard work, humour, and really big on dignity. Like if you rip someone off, we'll have a go at you. So we're really big on integrity, and like really big on humour to test you to see if you're got an ego problem, because we're so far away from everyone. We kind of feel like disconnected from the United States and England. With it, okay, well, that's fair enough. I mean, where are you from, Sandy? And also, there's a big difference between the working class, the lower middle class, the middle class, the comfortable middle class, and upper class and elite. Very big difference. Now, obviously, because Australia has socialist elements, the working class and poverty class, they have a lot of problems because the social services are so prolific, and the alcohol and drugs and sex culture is so pushed from AC/DC and footy players, etc., that, yeah, there's a lot of people, dole bludgers, there is a lot of problems with that. There's a lot of single moms, but that comes down to as well is that it's not popularized. Like in Russia, where my wife's family is from, the popular guy in high school is the smart one. Whereas in Eastern Europe, the popular guy is the one with the most well spoken, and who is like doing science experiments, and he's like building stuff and working on summer holidays. Yeah, people are waking up now, but most people are just so focused on, or guys in their 20s and 30s are just so focused on chasing women and partying and fast cars that they don't really have time to figure out how the world works. Anywho, I might leave you guys to it. My food's cold, and yeah. Cheers, guys. Have a good one. Hope you've enjoyed the conversation. I'm not losing hope. I'm very optimistic. Very optimistic. Um, Especially with Gen Z, like the young fellas. The young fellas are they're people I look up to. Like the people who are born from 1996 to 2005. They're they're the ones who are going to save us. They're the ones who have seen that the Gen Ys like me and the Gen X's and the boomers have failed. We've failed with the conspicuous consumption, we've failed with toxic feminism and narcissism, and the Gen Z, they're the ones who are turning to conservatism, and they're the ones who are willing to, like, they're not as status-based, they're not as judging people by just their job, and they're realizing like there's a lot of antiquated systems, like a lot of university degrees that don't define your success. I mean, it's good to be educated, but you don't need to do you can get a good education from the internet. Like, I'm 34. I learned more about psychology um, from Rumble and YouTube than I did from my 20 units that I completed my degree. Alright, take it easy.